Hi, everyone. We'll get started with our webinar here in just about a minute, right at the top of the hour. For you early birds just jumping on, I'll repeat this later, but if you have questions, use the Q&A button, I believe still in the Zoom interface, which recently changed. If you mouse down towards the bottom of the screen, you should see a Q&A button down there. Just click that and ask your questions as you think of them, and we will get to them after the presentation. Remember, if you need a certificate of attendance, you do need to answer at least one of the poll questions that will come up. So keep your eyes open for those poll questions and be sure you answer at least one of them. If for some reason you can't answer the poll question, you can't click it or whatever happens, just send me a note that you can't do that in the Q&A, and I'll make note of that for you. So, okay, we'll get started here in just one moment. Welcome to today's webinar, From Data to Wow, where AI meets quality, sponsored by Octave, formerly ETQ. I'm Dirk Ducharme, Editor-in-Chief for Quality Digest, and I'll be your host for today's webinar. Okay, quality teams are under more pressure than ever. Faster production cycles, increasingly complex products, and expanding regulatory expectations are forcing organizations to do more with less. Yet too many teams are still spending valuable time on manual data entry, chasing down information, and reacting to problems after they've already occurred. The promise of AI is to change all that, not through sweeping transformation overnight, but through practical, embedded intelligence that removes friction from the work people do every day. The shift is already underway. So today we're going to look at Octave's Reliance AI working inside real quality workflows and have an honest conversation about what meaningful business impact looks like when you start where the work actually happens. Before we get started, just a reminder that you can send us questions using the Q&A box. You can find the Q&A button in the bar down there towards the bottom of your screen. Send your questions to us as you think of them, and we will address them after the presentation. A recording of this webinar will be available one day after the webinar at about this time tomorrow. You will get an email with that information from Quality Digest. Those of you who need a certificate of attendance, this is important. You must answer one of the polling questions presented during the webinar in order to get your certificate. So watch out for those polls. And like I said, if for some reason you can't answer them, just send me a note in the Q&A. Okay, let's get started. Our presenters today are Angela Anderson and Diptesh Shah. Angela is Product Marketing Manager at Octave, formerly ETQ. She is an experienced marketing professional who has led go-to-market programs for hardware and software technology companies, primarily in the aviation industry. At Octave, she is a critical member of the product marketing team with special expertise in quality management software solutions. Diptesh is the Executive Director of AI and Machine Learning Strategy at Octave. He leads the strategy and vision for embedding AI, machine learning, and advanced analytics into the company's quality management platform and product portfolio to deliver intelligent capabilities that help manufacturing organizations worldwide improve quality and compliance outcomes. And Angela, I believe you are starting us off.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dirk, for that great introduction. So before we dive in, I just want to quickly kind of walk through what you can expect from this session. We're going to start by talking about how AI is reshaping modern quality. Then we're going to move into what's actually delivering practical value right now, not just in theory. And then Diptesh is going to walk us through some actual feature demonstrations from the Reliance quality management system platform. So this session, it's a really great opportunity. This is a chance to hear directly from a seasoned AI expert actively building solutions for modern quality systems. So as we go, as Dirk mentioned, be sure to drop your questions in the chat and we'll work through them kind of throughout and then save time at the end, definitely for more. So with that, I am going to hand off to Diptesh to set the scene for us.
All righty. Well, thank you, Angela. And thank you to everyone for taking the time to join us today. So for those of you who've actually joined us on a prior webinar, or have heard myself or Angela or others from Octave rely and speak before, some of this is going to sound familiar, but it's an important starting point for everything we're going to cover today. And it really starts with the fundamental question is why are we here? Why are we even talking about AI, right, in the context of quality right now? And Dirk alluded to a number of the key reasons, but really the short answer is that quality teams are under more pressure than ever. And traditional ways of working just aren't or just can't keep up, right? Like quality leaders today are navigating some very real challenges from rising production costs, skilled labor shortages, increased regulatory pressure, as well as shifting cost structures, right, driven by geopolitical tension and broader market conditions. And all of that is really makes it a lot harder to maintain quality, also while ensuring compliance, and ultimately protecting margins and profitability, right? And now also kind of along with all of those things going on, there's an explosion of data across the quality landscape from, hey, you've got your supplier interactions, you have audit findings, you have things coming in from your customers, your users, right? Complaints, feedbacks, how you're running CAPAs, you're managing training, all sorts of other day-to-day activity that's managed and executed inside of your EQMS. And all of this information holds value, but the challenge is how do you make sense of all of it and quickly enough to actually act, right? It's all about turning that data and information into action. And what we hear consistently from quality teams is that too much time is still spent on what would be considered low value work, right? Things like manual data entry, searching for information, trying to piece together what's happening instead of actually acting, right? And even when the data is available and it might be readily available, it's often difficult to interpret and interpret quickly enough to support confident decisions right in the moment, right? And so this isn't just a data problem, it's an efficiency problem, it's a decision-making problem. Ultimately, it's a risk management problem as well. Because again, organizations such as everyone who's probably attending here can attest are being asked to move faster, right? Make better decisions, improve quality, and identify issues earlier to, again, also improve quality as well as reduce waste, and often with the same or fewer resources. And that is where AI starts to matter in a very practical way. Again, just as Dirk was saying at the beginning, we're not talking necessarily a big sweeping transformation, but using AI as a way to improve how work gets done across the board, right? From helping teams capture information faster, more consistently, and accurately, to helping them make sense of the information in that moment, enabling them to make quicker, better decisions on what to do next, and helping to surface and respond to risks or issues earlier, right? Before they turn into actual product defects or disruptions on the production line and ultimately have an impact on your customers. And also, I've got to be cognizant of the fact that there's still a lot of uncertainty when it comes to AI, right? Many organizations know that AI has potential, but they don't know where to start. They're also concerned about the trust, explainability, and how AI could really fit into their existing quality and compliance or EHS processes, right? And really, I mean, it's well suited because there's often a gap between the promise of AI and what can actually be operationalized in a way that teams will adopt, right? And that's what really today is about. We're going to ground this conversation in reality, right? Showing what practical embedded AI looks like inside real quality workflows today, right? Where it's already delivering value and how organizations can take really a more pragmatic approach that aligns both with their maturity and the environment that they're operating in. And then lastly, look, folks, ultimately here, the goal of AI isn't to replace people, replace yourselves, or even, quite frankly, automate judgment or actions fully, right? It's to give quality teams and the folks that are on those teams a strategic edge, helping them to do more with less, right? Move faster, make better decisions, and operate with more confidence in an environment that's really only getting more complex. So that's why we're here, and we're gonna dive into some of the nitty-gritty details and show you, like I said, some of the AI in action and see the ROI and the value it's delivering.
Yeah, great. Thank you for that setup, Jitesh. And yeah, definitely a lot of kind of AI noise, which folks are probably kind of struggling to figure
Yeah.
out, like you say, what's just the the flashy uh, marketing versus what's actually practical and real and can bring value. And I think, oh, my
Yeah.
apologies. I thought we had our poll. I think our poll question is after this. Got out of order there. So, so speaking of that,
Good.
so I think Diptesh, like you said, there's a lot of kind of AI noise and maybe some hype, and not all of it may translate into something that a quality team can, actually use on a Monday morning. But from your perspective, what separates AI that's going to, genuinely move the needle for quality versus just that empty hype, and that how that plays into the needs of all quality stakeholders?
Great question and a very important one because, as you said, again, the hype around AI is at a super high level right now, right? And so, from my perspective, right, the difference between AI that actually improves quality outcomes and AI that is mostly hype comes down to a few fundamental principles, right? First, it has to be designed around the real user needs and actual workflows, like the user flows, right? All AI that works doesn't start with the technology, right? It starts with the people doing the work. What are they responsible for? What are the decisions they need to make? Where does friction exist in their day-to-day work or processes today? And especially in quality, it's especially important because, as we all know, teams aren't monolithic, right? You've got your frontline folks or your practitioners that are driving your day-to-day execution, right? Capturing information or data, conducting investigations, making sure your production lines are moving. You've got managers overseeing operation, ensuring processes are followed, making real-time decisions. You got folks in your compliance and audit teams, right, focused on audit readiness and regulatory compliance, making sure that, hey, things are all up and up, and any sort of gaps are pre-identified, addressed, no surprises. I mean, that's a lot of work then in and of itself. So you've got senior leaders trying to look at broader trends around risk, as well as the performance to basically shape forward-looking strategy, right? To align with their strategic business outcomes that they desire. Yeah, these are just some of the examples, but all of these types of roles or these personas interact with your EQMS differently, or with the data or the information that's within it differently. They face different challenges. They also have different definitions of what success means to them, right? And so if you don't design around that reality, AI, it may look impressive when you look at a demo, but it's not going to get adopted and it's not going to deliver lasting value, right? So you have to have that who you're building and what you're building it for front of mind. The second piece that's vital is domain awareness, right? So quality, it's not generic. The way decisions are made, how risk is evaluated, how processes are executed, all of that varies by industry and by context, right? Even as something as common as a nonconformance can mean very different things depending on the environment, right? How severity is assessed, how disposition decisions are made, what actions are required. So AI that understands that context, that understands again what kind of environment it's working within, and reflects how the quality teams actually think about those problems, is what helps make it actually usable and trustworthy. So that domain awareness is paramount. And the third element, which is absolutely vital as well, is where AI shows up, right? So real value comes when AI is embedded or made available directly within the processes or flows where work is already happening, right? Not as a separate disjointed kind of tool or something off to the side that users have to step outside their normal workflows, right, to use, but rather integrated into the system so that the guidance that they need shows up in the moment, again, right where decisions are being made. And that's what's going to reduce friction. That's going to drive adoption. And that's what allows teams to actually act on insights instead of just potentially seeing them, right? And quite frankly, that's also true regardless of where that intelligence comes from. Like, the experience for the user needs to stay the same. It has to show up within their workflow, right? Within their user flow, in the moment, again, where decisions are being made. And in some cases, that intelligence can be produced natively, right? Within, say, for example, Octave Reliance. In other cases, it may come from external systems or specialized AI capabilities, but it still has to be delivered back into that, again, that same user workflow so teams can act on it. Because again, ultimately, the value isn't in generating insight, it's in making that insight usable in that moment. And then last, but definitely not least, AI has to be explainable and again, actionable. If it's not explainable, then folks shouldn't be taking action on it, right? So in quality, especially in regulated environments, it's not enough for AI or any sort of AI-driven capability to give you an answer, right? You need to be able to understand why something was suggested, right? What it's based on, and be able to validate it, right? If you can't explain it, then you won't trust it, and if you don't trust it, then you won't use it, or at the very least, again, you should not be using it if you don't trust it. So when you put all of that together, AI that's designed around real workflows, real users, grounded in domain expertise, embedded into the way that folks do or normally operate, do their day-to-day jobs, and explainable in how it works, that's where we start to see real impact. And that impact is happening already today, right? We are seeing it in very practical ways. For example, reducing manual effort and improving data quality at the point of intake. AI to help teams or is helping teams make faster, more informed decisions by surfacing relevant context and signals. And we're going to walk through some great examples here. And then also increasingly, AI is helping organizations get ahead of risk by identifying patterns earlier and enabling more proactive quality management. So rather than keep this theoretical, let's jump in and make it real. I understand we may have a poll question beforehand,
Yeah, thanks.
but I'm going to start by showing you right after the question, right? What embedded AI looks like inside day-to-day quality workflows. And first, again, we're going to show you a couple of capabilities within Octave Reliance for how we can help reduce that manual effort as well as improve the quality of data right at the point of intake, right at the point of data entry. And then also how we can help teams better understand, prioritize, and act on information, specifically around complaints and feedbacks that are coming in through our complaint and feedback advisor capability. So can't wait to jump in on that front. But first, Angela, I believe we definitely want to have a
Now
better
we're
understanding.
now we're at
Right.
the poll question.
There we go.
All right. All
And
right.
let
Oh,
me jump in real quick second here. While we're letting people answer this question, I can tell from some of the questions that are coming in. Do you think that because people have used some, kind of general AI like Chat GPT or Claude, they're aware of the shortcomings. Do you think that makes them a little leery of using AI, even though it's embedded AI, which is a completely different beast?
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure. Right. I mean, everybody's probably had anybody who's used a Chat GPT or a Claude has probably seen information or answers come back. They're like, huh? And make you scratch your head or be like, can you actually cite your sources or how did you come about this answer? And a number of times we'll be like, well, I can't really cite any specific sources. And it's basically the word hallucination comes into play, right?
Yep.
So you absolutely should be wary of hallucinations, and as should any vendor or any solution provider that's leveraging AI. And that is absolutely a key aspect of developing responsible and trustworthy AI to, in our case, to our users and our customers, right? Um, Guarding against, and there's some great ways, some well-defined ways, well-understood ways to guard against hallucinations. Some of those hallucinations you might be seeing, like in a chat GPT, also comes from a lack of that domain awareness that I was mentioning earlier, right? And this is where the years or decades of expertise, of knowledge, of skills that we built working with our broad customer base across various industries, that really goes a long way to teaching the AI what is right from wrong, and also, like I said, making sure that the appropriate guardrails are in place such that if it doesn't know something or if it has low confidence, it will admit it as opposed to pretending that it knows everything, which AI loves to do, by the way.
All right. And you should be seeing the results there of that poll question.
Ah,
A lot of experimentation happening. That's great.
ah, fully
And
integrated too. Okay. Unsure
yeah,
enough.
curious about that. We'd love to talk to you, those of you who said fully integrated. We'd love to hear about your use cases.
Indeed. That's always exciting to see. And I feel like that number is even actually ticked up, at least from an experimentation standpoint from the last time. So absolutely, please definitely jump in and let us know how or what you're actually looking at, or what kind of use cases or value that you're trying to achieve through the application of AI. Always definitely very much interested in understanding what folks are trying to do, and also how successful you've been. So looking forward to that. Okay. Alrighty. So Form Field Advisor. So this is a great example of what we mean by practical embedded AI, right? Applied directly within the workflows that our quality practitioners are already using every day, right? If you think back to just 2 minutes ago, what we talked about, or what I said, a lot of time in quality is spent on what is in essence low value manual tasks, but necessary tasks, such as capturing information, filling out forms, and you got to ensure that the right data is entered in the right way, right? Per your procedures, policies, per your SOPs that you have defined. And that's exactly the problem that Form Field Advisor is designed to address. So in essence, basically, let's say you're entering in a new kappa or a nonconformance or another form of quality event, any sort of entry into Octave Reliance, you bring up a form. First thing you're going to provide is some sort of context, whether it's called a description, whether you have some other name for the field, but a little bit of blurb of what this whole record is about. And then using that context, basically AI can use that along with, again, I'll just simplify it, but let's call it, it'll look at your own historical data, identify patterns amongst similar types of records, and use that to recommend values for other fields on that form in real time, right? So instead of guessing what belongs in a field or perhaps missing important details, users are able to get context-aware guidance as they're doing the work. Um, and just as important as what it does is how it does it. This is human-guided AI, meaning the system doesn't just give you an answer. It explains the recommendation along with confidence levels, and gives the user the power to review and decide what to accept or override. So the user always stays in control, right? Which is critical. And the last piece here that I wanted to talk about before we kind of show you it in action is governance, right? This isn't something like this capability or any capability isn't something that's just turned on and running in the background. It's fully controlled by the organization, meaning all AI capabilities are disabled by default, so admins have to explicitly opt in to enable it. But from there, they get to decide where it's enabled. In this case, which forms, right? And how do you do that? Well, it's the same tooling that you're using today to build your forms, which we call our designer interface. Form Field Advisor is just a something that you can add into a form using that same tool, right? So it aligns naturally with your existing processes as well as your controls and data governance policies, which is again paramount. So with that, let us show you what it actually looks like in practice with an example where we're using Form Field Advisor to help fill in a new nonconformance. Let's take a look at how Form Field Advisor enhances data entry across Reliance forms. In this example, we'll walk through reporting a new nonconformance. I want to document an issue discovered during routine quality checks where several units in a lot were found with foreign material trapped inside sealed packaging. So I will instantiate a new NCR form and enter in that description into the NCR description field. Now, this particular nonconformance form has been configured with Form Field Advisor to analyze the description and provide suggestions for priority, department, and nonconformance type. As you see here, once I've entered in the description, the Generate AI Suggestions action, that action button, becomes enabled. When I click it, Form Field Advisor will analyze that description along with historical nonconformances that have been reported, look for patterns in those particular fields that it wants to generate recommendations for, and will then return recommended values for those fields. In this case, 3 fields. As you can see here, AI generated 3 fields based off of the description that we provided. Any fields populated by AI are marked with the Gen AI icon, so users are always in the know as to which values were suggested by AI, as you can see here. Next to the Generate AI Suggestions action, I can also see the overall confidence level for these set of recommendations. Clicking on this overall confidence level pill icon will open a detailed dialog which will show the confidence for each individual field recommendation, along with the clear rationale for why each value was suggested. I'll close the confidence dialog, and as you'll see, I can still update any field manually. So for example, instead of quality, if I believe this really belongs to the manufacturing department, I can update the suggested value. When I change an AI suggested value, note that the Gen AI indicator disappears, further reinforcing that users remain fully in control of the final decisions and the final field values that will be submitted. Whoa. Alrighty.
Okay.
Yeah. So again, that was a very brief, short demonstration, but hopefully the power of the capability came across in that little demo. And just to back it up, what you just saw isn't just about convenience, right? It actually translates into very real measurable impact. And what you're seeing here, or what we're showing here, is actually based on what we're hearing directly from our customers and users, including early adopters of the Form Field Advisor capability, as well as others that we've actually walked through this and validated potential impact. And so what we're hearing is, look, today it's not uncommon for users to spend anywhere from 10 to up to 30 minutes completing a form, depending on complexity. And what we're seeing, or what our users are telling us, is that with Form Field Advisor, we're pretty consistently being able to shave roughly about 5 to say 8 minutes out of that process, somewhere in that range, simply, again, by guiding users towards the right inputs and also reducing the need to go back and correct or fill gaps later. So great, 5 to 8 minutes per form. Now on its own, that might not sound like a massive number, but when you scale it, that impact becomes very real. And again, based on what we're hearing from our own customers, around say 6,000 forms annually sits right about in the middle of the range, around the number of forms where Form Field Advisor could deliver value. So 6,000 annually. And so when you apply that 5 to 8 minute kind of savings per form, that translates into roughly 500 to 800 hours of time saved, which is translated to days, about 60 to 100 work days. And that's time that's currently being spent on manual data entry or interpretation and rework. Now, instead of spending that time capturing and correcting data, what could you do with that, right? I mean, teams can redirect that effort towards a lot higher value activities, right? More time focused on really complex issues and investigations, working to get faster resolution to issues, and also ultimately getting ahead of risk instead of potentially just reacting to it, right? Just think about it, like 60 to 100 work days. That's pretty substantial. But also importantly, it's not just about that time savings. You're also improving consistency and the quality of data being captured at the source, right? Which has a downstream impact on a number of other quality or every other quality process that depends on that information, on that data. So again, this is a great example of how a simple, like, practical application of AI can drive meaningful operational impact without really requiring any sort of large scale transformation or transformational effort here, right? This is again something that's just built in, baked into how folks are doing their jobs today, but with AI assisted guidance to do it more effectively, efficiently, and accurately. So what we just walked through with Form Field Advisor is, like I said, really about improving how information gets captured, right? Making it faster, more consistent, reducing downstream rework. But then the next challenge is, well, what happens after that, right? Once information is in the system, how do you actually make sense of it? Especially when it's really complex. It's a combination of structured as well as unstructured information or coming from multiple sources. And a great example of that is when you're dealing with complaints or feedback that are coming in from your end users, your customers. And that's why we introduced Complaint and Feedback Advisor, or CFA for short. Because when a complaint comes in, again, the challenge isn't just capturing all of the information that's coming at you. That's actually making sense of it, understanding it, making determination as to whether it warrants an investigation, then actually going through the investigation effort, and then really determining how to resolve on it, right? How to act on it quickly and effectively. And so CFA really focuses on improving how complaints and feedback are taken in, understood, investigated, and ultimately acted upon. And it starts right at intake. So say, look, when you get a complaint coming in, there's often supporting information that's coming in through various forms. Email exchanges, right? You got email trails. You're going to have potential information captured in documents like Word documents or PDFs. I know some of our customers have like a portal, which it has its own form that their users fill in with details about an issue, which that gets converted into a PDF, alongside images. This has become more and more common these days. We're seeing is where, hey, there's an issue, great, there's a little blurb, but then here's a nice little picture or perhaps even a video, but definitely pictures of the issue at hand, right? If it's a packaging issue, they'll show, hey, look, there's missing quantity or the label is wrong. Images are a key thing. And so between emails, documents, images, and what have you, someone has to manually go through all that to just to understand what the actual issue is before they can even begin entering more details into the system, let alone actually take any action. So what does the AI do here is able to summarize all of that up front, right? Just in the intake process. So instead of starting from scratch, a user can immediately get a clear, concise understanding of the issue, which is going to accelerate the intake and also reduce the chance of key details being missed out. And then from there, it's able to add context, right? The system is able to surface related complaints, right? Prior or other in progress complaints or feedback that are going on right now, or things that have been addressed previously. If it's something that's already being worked, no point in replicating or duplicating efforts here, right? Link it and let the investigation proceed. And now they've got yet another data point to use in terms of the investigation and resolution. So surfacing related complaints, as well as, again, associated actions that have already been taken. So if a corrective action was already taken for this, great. Sorry, Mr. or Mrs. Customer, you missed the boat, but we've taken care of this, and this is going to be the remediation step for you, right? In addition to that, if it can actually assess the urgency level, right? Identify and bubble up urgency signals between using things like sentiment analysis or things like repeat occurrence for this customer or overall complaint volume for said customer. Just some of the signals that would feed into urgency level. As well as provide context around what level or type of risk this particular issue kind of presents to your product line, or your business. All in all, giving teams a much clearer picture of whether, like I said, they're dealing with an isolated issue or something that might be part of a broader pattern, as well as help them better prioritize, especially when they've got a whole slew of things coming in at them at once, right? And that's where the real value starts to show up, because we're not just now capturing information, we're helping to enable better decisions. So again, very consistent with what you saw earlier. This is also human-guided AI. The goal isn't to replace judgment, it's to augment it. And just like Form Field Advisor, it's designed to reduce friction, increase confidence, and address pain points that we're hearing quality teams are having to deal with constantly, right, throughout the day. So again, with that, let us show you how Complaint and Feedback Advisor works in practice. I'm going to show how our upcoming Complaint and Feedback Advisor capability improves complaint intake, prioritization, and investigation. As part of this, we're introducing something brand new called the Reliance AI Assistant, or Ask Reliance AI. This is a natively embedded AI assistant within the Reliance platform, and it's where we'll be delivering a number of our forward-looking and planned AI capabilities, including the Complaint and Feedback Advisor. Okay, so I'm going to start by creating a new complaint record. And then next, I'll attach customer-provided files, such as email correspondence, as well as other supporting artifacts like images and documents. This is where large amounts of unstructured information usually slow teams down, because users have to open and review each attachment, extract the key details, and manually bring that information into the complaint record. And that's exactly where the Reliance AI Assistant can step in to analyze and summarize everything for them. So now I'm going to expand the AI Assistant and ask it to summarize the complaint for me. So now what you see here is a concise summary generated from just the files that I attached. Each part of the summary includes links back to the source content, so users can immediately validate where that information came from. You'll also see a confidence indicator. And if I hover over it, I can see how confident the system is in the output that was generated. And because this is designed to accelerate intake, I can copy this summary and paste it directly into the complaint description field to give me a great baseline to start from. Now, next, I'm going to ask the assistant to find any related records. The reason I'd want to do this is to understand whether this is an issue that has been reported before, again, either by this customer or others, and what actions, if any, were taken. This helps avoiding duplicate effort, as well as gives early insight into whether this could be a more systemic issue, potentially requiring a CAPA. So here, the first result actually shows that a prior complaint for the same product, as well as came from the same customer, had been created. And the result coming back from the assistant actually gives me a rationale, as well as an understanding of what this related complaint was all about. Now, if I want the full context and want to be able to go through all of the information, I can easily follow the link for each of the related records, as well as actions that were returned. Now, in this case, a CAPA was actually executed, which would be very important context to have early in the intake process. And the second result here actually highlights another key aspect. If you note down here, if actions or details exist, but I don't have permission to see them, they will remain hidden. And so permission awareness is built directly into the experience, which is absolutely key. All right, so next, I'm going to have the assistant assess both customer urgency as well as product or business risk levels. Together, these help answer two critical questions early on. How urgently does this issue need attention? And what is the potential business or risk impact if it isn't addressed promptly? Right, this is especially important when teams are balancing multiple complaints and need help prioritizing their work. So from a customer urgency standpoint, based on factors like repeat occurrence, the system flags this as urgent, which can help, again, determine the order in which complaints should be addressed. Now, in parallel, the product risk analysis highlights potential impact areas and can feed directly into your risk assessment process, giving teams earlier visibility into issues that may warrant deeper investigation. And so to wrap, this capability, as you can see, will be able to significantly speed up the intake process while also improving consistency. Users get validated summaries, related context, urgency, and risk signals without manual analysis. And the value continues downstream. As the complaint filer adds additional information and the record transitions into investigation, investigators don't have to manually review every attachment or field or related record just to understand what the issue is. They can use the advisor as well as the assistant to get a quick upfront snapshot of the full context, which then further helps guide and streamline both the investigation and resolution process. Okay. All right. So what you just saw, folks, right, with both form field advisor as well as complaint and feedback advisor, and as you can imagine, the same type of capabilities that were being applied there for complaints or feedback records are going to be more broadly applicable. And there's going to be value in it as well, right? Things around summarizing large sets or rather, a combination of structured, unstructured information that could apply to the CAPA as nonconformances to audit findings, things like finding similar. Again, these are very reusable or more broadly applicable concepts. And so, as you can imagine, those will also be spreading beyond just complaint and feedback. But again, we started there just given the user research and figuring out that really is a high volume, high friction use case, and there are others. But we follow the crawl, walk, run approach here, folks, right? Start small, narrow scope, make sure it's solid before we expand out. And so that is part of our strategy overall, right? And so what you saw there, that's AI that's built in or embedded, as we call it, right, directly into the platform. And for many, if not most organizations, that's the most natural place to start because it delivers immediate value without requiring significant or major change in how people work. But one of the things we've been very intentional about is recognizing that there isn't a one-size-fits-all approach to AI and quality, right? We understand, look, different organizations are at different stages in their journey. They've got potentially different needs, different systems, or capabilities outside of Octave Reliance in play. And again, different levels of maturity. So rather than forcing a single approach, what we've built is a model that supports multiple AI pathways, right? But all within the same quality ecosystem. The first, as we've talked about it, what you've already seen, built-in AI, Form Field Advisor, Complaint Feedback Advisor, great examples of native built-in AI. But the second pathway I want to talk about is around what we consider more specialized AI capabilities, right? These are solutions that go deeper into a specific problem area or into specific problem areas, like predictive analytics on manufacturing shop floor data or connected worker intelligence. And often that level of specialization is going to live in a system outside of Reliance, right? These are purpose-built solutions for those types of use cases, which is great, which is fine. We want to be able to take advantage and we want to let our customers and users be able to take advantage of that ecosystem that they have in place. But the key is that they are not siloed, right? They're integrated back into, or rather the insights that are being generated are integrated back into the quality system or into Reliance. So teams can act on those insights, again, directly within their normal workflows or using their normal flows, right? And that's really where the best of breed approach comes into play. So we're continuously looking at specialized AI capabilities, right, where there's real depth in a particular domain, and how we can bring those into the Reliance ecosystem. And again, just as importantly, how we integrate them back into the processes and workflows your team's already using. And I'm going to double click on that in a moment. But quickly also touch on third pathway we call bring your own AI. For some organizations that are a lot further along and have their own kind of data science or development team capabilities or AI teams, um, we're able to provide governed access to right now the quality data or the data that resides within Reliance. So you can actually apply your own models or feed that data into an external assistant if so be it, right? Like or a co-pilot, but while still operating within, again, your broader quality ecosystem. As we move forward there are concepts around things like AI to AI interoperability and things that we'll be going into. I'm sure it'll be a good topic for another webinar going forward. But again, bring your own AI is definitely a key part of our multiple pathway strategy. But the idea here is flexibility, right? But without fragmentation. And so no matter where the intelligence is coming from, whether it's built into the platform, coming from specialized solutions, or coming from internally developed tools or capabilities, the experience for the user needs to remain consistent, right? Everything needs to connect back into that same system of record. And so, as I mentioned, I do want to kind of just drill into that second pathway for a second, that best of breed specialized AI and how it comes to life in the context of predictive quality analytics and how organizations are using that to move from a reactive quality management to a much more proactive and preventative approach. So this is a great example of that kind of best in breed specialized AI. And specifically, this is where we're partnered with a company called Acerta to bring what's called predictive quality analytics into the Reliance ecosystem. So Acerta has a great solution called Line Plus, and what it does is it brings together data from across your manufacturing operations, right? From sensors or IoT pieces, like from your actual equipment or machines, the findings from inspections, your MES system, PLC system, other shop floor systems, and it applies AI and machine learning to continuously monitor for patterns and anomalies, right? So instead of waiting for a defect or say a deviation to occur, the system will be able to identify or can identify early signals that something is trending in the wrong direction. For example, something like early signs of a measurement instrument or a piece of equipment starting to drift out of calibration. Right. Individually, those signals might be subtle, small variation in readings, slight shift in, say, process parameters. Nothing that would necessarily trigger a manual intervention right away, but taken together, those patterns can indicate that that process is moving out of control. And that's exactly where, again, AI becomes powerful because it can detect those patterns earlier than a human typically would, right? Before that drift turns into a defect or a batch failure or ultimately customer complaints, right? Impacting your customers. So when it identifies a pattern or a potential issue, well, what happens? Well, this is where the beauty of the solution comes in is it's not just doing a prediction, but it'll actually automatically trigger a quality event within Reliance. And that's a key point because it's not a separate analytics tool sitting off to the side. The insight that is generating is brought directly into your quality system, right? Into the workflows your team's already using to investigate, add the human expertise or context and act, right? So once that quality event comes in, your teams can apply the same type of root cause analyses approaches that they already use today, whether structured investigation, 5 whys, other methods. But now they're starting from a much stronger position with context that came from Line Plus already provided. And then you can validate that signal, work through identifying the root cause. Of course, again, this is where another area where AI will be able to help around that root cause analysis. And then you take whatever corrective or preventive measures or actions, you manage that process just like you normally do within Reliance. But what enables true closed loop quality is it doesn't stop there is because the outcome, right? All of the human insight that you captured in Reliance is fed back into the model. So helping it to continuously refine and improve its ability to detect and predict similar issues in the future. So again, here, great example of the system getting smarter over time. Signals get stronger and your ability to prevent issues also improve. And that's the shift this enables, right? From reacting to issues after they happen to identifying earlier and taking action before it impacts production, the quality of your products, and then ultimately your customers. And look, this to bring this together in terms of impact, if you don't mind, Angela, just moving. Um,
Oh, did you want to pause and take a sip of water, or I can walk through this one if
oh,
or if
sure.
if you
Go
feel like you're
for it.
on a
I
roll,
love it.
you keep
No.
rolling.
Oh, I'm getting always so
Happy.
excited about it,
I
especially these
know.
numbers, right? So,
I love it. You're very passionate about the topic, and it really comes across. So love it. So yeah, just as you know, Diptesh was just walking us through this great example of how the operational capability can translate into business outcomes, and I think you were about to kind of go deeper into that. And these are outcomes that the whole organization can feel. The operations level, like we were just talking about, those numbers are really concrete. It's improved defect detection, it's reduction in failure and rework rates, it's more uptime, it's less waste, and that kind of operational performance through your quality system, that's going to flow upward. And this is, for all of you out there, looking to, doing a little change management, maybe wanting to upgrade, your systems and think about, incorporating some of this newer technology. For finance, you need finance buy-in. That's, showing up in margins. It's, those scrap costs, the rework costs, the warranty claims, all those are real line items that move when your quality response times can improve and that data is flowing to be able to act on it. Your executive team, for them, it's all about risk and reputation, fewer audit findings, fewer customer escalations, a defensible quality system of record when regulators or major customers, come to the table. So, for you and your quality team, the people running this every day, it means kind of as Diptesh kind of started this whole conversation with, it's working at the level that you were hired for, not just kind of manually monitoring dashboards or chasing data or like spending your time, form filling and that kind of thing. It's actually leading quality and moving quality forward. So that's really, I love this example with Acerta because it's, exactly what a connected AI-driven ecosystem can deliver, and it's that operational intelligence that doesn't stay siloed. It removes all that fragmentation and will just compound those outcomes across every role, and at every level of the organization as well. So, anything to add there, Ditesh? Did I miss anything?
no, I think you hit it on the head. I mean, these are some significant, especially when we're talking about the reduction in warranty claim costs, and even the 5% reduction in scrap may
Mm,
not seem considerable, but my goodness, depending, um,
could be
it's
millions.
yes, it's mind-boggling how much wastage there is and how much goes towards scrap. So any little thing that we can do to help curb that is highly impactful. So again, a great example here of,
Mhm.
like I said, what we were talking about before is efficiency gains, consistency, right? Accuracy to keep things running smoothly. This is a great example of that proactive steps that AI can help you take. So it's really cool, really cool.
All right, Ella, I think we have quite a few questions backing up here. So very quickly, oh no, we've got another poll question.
There you
I
go.
was about to get there, folks, and then we got another
Well,
one.
that's okay. We'll take a question. We'll take a question here during the poll, and there are a
Okay.
ton of really amazing questions.
Yeah.
Let me just throw this one out. This is kind of typical for organizations operating under GMP requirements with largely manual or document-based QMS systems. How can AI-assisted tools be introduced for tasks like NCRs, CAPAs, et cetera, without compromising compliance? What level of validation and oversight would regulators expect? And are there cases where AI should just be avoided altogether?
Yeah, great question. So avoid it altogether. Again, it's not through Okta Reliance, but avoid AI for any sort of autonomous decisions, right? Like, for example, final dispositioning or any step that directly determines the product quality or release. Do not use AI for that. That has to be, at the end of the day, human call, human judgment, and it's going to be auditable, right? But if I heard you right? How can AI assisted tools be introduced for various things without compromising compliance, and what level of validation would regulators expect? Um, and so again, this is going to sound maybe like a little bit of a broken record, but you definitely want to start with assistive, what I would consider more low risk use cases, right? Layered on top of your existing QMS processes. So, for example, summarization. That's a great thing to be able to help your teams be more efficient, be able to, like I said, more quickly grasp the information that's already been captured. It's not going to actually play a role in, like I said, that final decision, or it's not making that final decision for you, but it's helping you to understand something, right? And also, actually, Form Field Advantage is great. That structured data capture for things like your NCRs, your CAPAs, because as long as you got human in the loop, right, with no auto write to the system of record, which we do not, also ensures CFR Part 11 compliance, right? Audit trail, traceability. Of course, here electronic signatures not playing a role per se, but that capability has to be there, right? You're signing off on what's in there. And then the intended use, right? With every AI capability, it will have its intended use, its expected use and behavior, and validation artifacts that show how it was tested, what the results were, and basically gives you the validation artifacts you need for that capability, in case you need to present it to your regulators or your auditors. So those would be my quick hits on that question. And I know everything is in the Q&A, so if I didn't hit on all of it, we'll make sure to go through in more detail, and get back to each of you as quickly as possible.
And there's the results from your poll.
Yeah. Yep. Getting to decision faster. Totally understandable. Product quality. Yeah. Yeah. And then the other two really kind of fall out from the first two in a way.
Indeed.
Yeah.
That
Interesting.
seems fairly consistent. Fairly consistent.
Yeah.
Okay, let's
Okay.
Yeah, keep going,
let's
Derek.
take some questions, and there are a ton of them. And like Diptesh just said, don't worry if we don't get to your question. I will forward this on to them, and they can get to you offline. Okay. What governance, validation, and data security controls do you consider essential before using AI on confidential biotech quality data so companies do not compromise proprietary information while still gaining operational value?
Well, yeah. So before putting any of your proprietary information in any software, leaving even AI aside for a second, you're going to have certain kind of intake or controls, right? And measures that a software provider is going to have to prove, right? How are they keeping your data? Where are they keeping it? How are they keeping it secure? Especially with SaaS solutions, how are they ensuring that there's no data leakage between one customer and another? And so beauty of here, especially when we're talking about that embedded AI, right? Embedding it into the platform, working on top of the same sets of services, controls, access controls that are already there, is that a lot of that's already baked in, right? Now beyond that, you got to ensure that, and this usually through some legal language that's built into whether it's your MSA, right, your master service agreement, that stipulates that your data is not going to be used to train any sort of AI models unless you give explicit consent to do so. That's number one. Number two, that your data will not be used to provide functionality for any other customer environment, what have you, right? And here at Okta Reliance, look, we've got it locked down to the point where even within your own account, you have multiple environments. You have your kind of test environment, you have your validation, and then your actual production instance, right? 3 different instances. AI is not even going to be able to look across data across those instances. It can only look at your data and only yours, right, within the instance that it's running in. So that is absolutely vital, right, to validate what is happening with your data, where is it going, what are the boundaries, what are the protections that are in place, is definitely going to be at top of mind. And then the latter part, Dirk, I may have missed the second part. Was there a second part to the question?
Scrolling down here. Oh, yeah, okay. So so you have those data security controls, but the concern was so how not compromising proprietary information while still gaining operational value. And I think you basically kind of addressed that already.
Exactly. So your data will help drive improvements in value for you and you only. And
Yeah.
that's exactly what you need to verify, and that's what any good um, provider or vendor should be doing, right, quite frankly.
So there's an interesting question here, and I kind of thought of this as it was going along too. So I understand from the form field advisor, it pre-populates a few fields based on previous knowledge of the system, but it also required human intervention just to kind of make sure, is this really what I think? So did you factor this in when you were talking about your improvement metrics, your speed? I mean, so the humans still going back and checking, how much time are they really saving?
Yeah, no, that absolutely has been factored in, right? And you're right. In certain cases, it's like, you know what? I've gone through this process 100 times in the last month. And I pretty much know all of the variations. So honestly, this doesn't really add much value. That's absolutely true. But that's actually more, how would I put, less common than not, where folks are, yeah, they're dealing with kappas on a day-to-day basis or your NCRs or deviations, but this specific type or this combination, especially where some of these kind of field values can be so complex, especially with nested rules and dependencies and structures, that you're basically looking through what in essence is 1,000 different potential values to choose from. And then once you pick from the first field, then it drives the value for the second field, and that you got another 40 to select from, and so on and so forth. Even there, where folks have been doing this repeatedly, like holy moly, this actually saves me the time. It goes to pull up that document or that SOP, go find the appropriate sections, check all the criteria. By the way, I'm still doing that, but now this will pinpoint me to say, okay, the department was chosen as manufacturing based off of, here are the criteria. Yep, it makes sense, right? So absolutely factored into those time savings. And again, these are averages, right? In certain cases, honestly, you're not going to get much savings at all. In other cases, you're going to have pretty significant savings. And in the demo you saw, there was only about 3 or 4 fields it was populating. Imagine you've got 40 different fields on that form that could help populate for you.
So we had several questions related to implementation. So how difficult or how time consuming or what's involved, however you want to address it, from getting your legacy data, your legacy system and your historical data into Reliance. How big a task is that?
It's not that big at all, quite frankly. I mean, look, I mean, Reliance has been around for a while now. So we're used to bringing in data from other systems, whether they're another EQMS that's being retired or homegrown systems or what have you. Obviously, we've got our ability to do bulk import or ingest. We've got web service APIs. So it's fairly simple to bring vast amounts of data into the system. First, as long as you've defined what your definition of good looks like now, right, in this new world, right, within Reliance, and then it's a matter of mapping the data that you have in your old systems or whatnot, and then bringing it in. So I don't want to oversimplify it, as in it's not just click of a finger and done. So there is obviously going to be a little bit of effort to map from old to new, but once you've done that, it's just a matter of the data flow opens, data comes in, and you're on our AI-enabled platform. that data, again, is just for your environment, is automatically what we call kind of indexed and set up for use by AI capabilities that we have in the platform. So if you so choose to use them.
Okay. Well, let's take just one last question here.
Yeah,
A
please.
little over. So garbage in, garbage out. So how does AI handle low confidence human inputs to prevent flawed data from triggering false warnings? And I guess my thought on that would be, just to kind of rephrase this, a human might look at maybe who input the data. Maybe they're typically a person that just doesn't, enter data very well. It's always a little vague. As a human, I know, oh, that's Frank. I know, okay, I got to read Frank a little bit closely. AI may not know that, right? Would AI flag kind of low confidence Frank data and prevent that from triggering false warnings?
It's a very good question. Very good question. And so that absolutely yes, right? So in in sense of identifying what you might call your SMEs or your top performers. So that's one mechanism of input that could be provided, right? And saying, hey, Dirk is the SME when it comes to kappas, right? Within this product line or within this location. Whereas Diptesh or Frank, we'll leave them aside. We're going to consider what they provided, but always prioritize or look at your SME first, right? So there are ways to be able to give AI some guidance, right? Beyond the typical kind of feedback loops, as well as implicit feedback loops that we have built in, which would be interesting that if it like that Frank example, are you letting the information he enters in slide all the way through completion, just knowing that it's and it's incomplete? I'm hoping there are corrections being made or there is some rework being done to get it into better shape. Because otherwise you are actually probably not meeting the mark, so to speak, right? In terms of what is being documented already. And so even in those cases, the AI will be able to learn that says, hey, when we recommended things, and Frank just let it go through, but during review or before it went through final completion, those recommendations were modified or they were rejected. AI will learn. It's not going to take credit for saying, hey, we did something and Frank let it go through. That means we did a good job. No, the good job is, was it accepted at the end, right? Given the context that was provided. So there's a number of different kind of feedback and or learning mechanisms, some of which already exist today, some of which will be coming. But that's a great question. And that's always one that we battle with, right, in the world of AI.
Right. Okay. Okay. Well, we're at the end of our time. This was great. Man, you guys, wait till you see the questions that came in.
I can't
This
believe.
was really in depth. This is
I
really
think
good.
we need a part two. We need a part two, like
We definitely need to part two.
lightning
Just
round.
questions.
Yeah,
Just
lightning round with
questions.
Jiptesh. Yeah, exactly.
This was really good. So thanks,
Yeah.
guys. Appreciate it. Really,
Okay.
really great information. And of course, thanks to our audience for attending. You will all be getting an email in about 24 hours with a link to a recording of the webinar so you can watch it again and again and again and share it with your coworkers. Also, within a few days, you should be getting a PDF of the slides from Octave ETQ. That'll be coming from them. The recording will be coming from us. So keep your eyes open for those emails. And that is it. So from all of us here at Quality Digest and Octave, thanks for joining us, and we will see you at the next webinar. So long.
Okay.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you all.